I'm very happy to be talking to Isabelle Mauro. She's the Head of External Relations for the GSMA, and that's an industry grouping of telephone operators, mobile phone operators and mobile phone manufacturers. Welcome, Ms. Mauro. First of all, you're very keen that at a meeting like this, a conference like this, which seems to attract a lot of international organisations, heads of government, etc., or ministers for telecommunications, that there be some sort of presence and some sort of say for the private sector?
Well, I think it is becoming increasingly important that we really install and continue a dialogue between administration, so government or regulators, and the industry. This is something that we do at a national level. Where there are particular issues in country, then we will go and speak in name of all the operators from that country. We do it at regional level, and clearly the ITU for us is a wonderful platform where you gather, you have all the governments and regulators in the same room.
But it's quite important that governments be seen to take a distance from the private sector, because otherwise they'll be accused of just doing the bidding of private enterprise.
I think the matter is not about being seen as working together or not. It's just a matter of understanding each other's needs. I think it's very important for industry to understand where regulators and governments are coming from, what are the policies that we are focusing on, and are those the same, priorities, the same preoccupations that the industry is working on at the moment?
Looking specifically at mobile telephones, we've seen that there is an impetus for rolling out broadband internet. However, many people, 90% of the world's population, have some sort of access to mobile telephones. How are they working to help countries to develop?
Well, I think you will see that at 10%, I think the World Bank, according to a World Bank study, a 10% intake in broadband offers an increase of 1.37% GDP. So I think numbers speaks for themselves. Having been sitting in the room today in the WTDC conference all morning, listening to ministers, to the ITU, etc., I think broadband, mobile broadband is the hype word. And I think if you look at the figures again, 4.8 billion people are using mobile phones already, so there is no need to reinvent the wheel. And this, I think, is clear to everybody that the way we are going to provide internet access is going to be via mobile, if we talk about mass access.
What are outline some applications that you think are most exciting, such as mobile money, mobile banking, etc., in the development context?
I think if you look at what has happened, for instance, in mobile money, Kenya is a very good example of what has happened, and they've been really the pioneers of mobile money. Now, we believe that mobile money, again, is going to be a vehicle to serve the unbanked so far. And I was recently at a meeting in Cameroon with all the financial regulators. And you see that there is really a big appetite to offer those services, banking services, to people who would otherwise not have access to these services. So in the financial area, I think it is very clear that there is already a footprint. I think it's also very indicative that that footprint was born in developing countries. I mean, Kenya has really pioneered these services. So, we in the West are learning from what is being done in developing countries.
And on the subject of money again, a lot of countries that are opening up their markets to mobile operators are auctioning or selling off spectrum and generating enormous fees in doing that. Now, this is great for national governments who receive this wonderful dividend or windfall from mobile operators, but it's not necessarily very good for consumers, because someone in the end has to pay for that initial auction. What sort of guarantee is there that consumers on the ground, aren't getting fleeced once the operation is up and running?
I think the same reaction happened in Europe when the 3G auction happened. Nobody ever thought we could raise that amount of money, from the auctions, and was it good, was it bad? It's very difficult to take a position, because at the end it's market forces that define the price. I think there is an element of the fact that spectrum is a scarce resource, and therefore you need to secure it. You need to have the bid that you need in order to be able to develop the services that you need to develop as an operator. Now, in terms of the effect that this will have on consumers and on the pricing, I guess, of services, you know, the price of the auction is not only what determines or what is going to determine the price of the services. One of the things that is really important as well is that to make sure that there is a clear framework in how these services are going to be rolled out. So the policy, the public policy or the regulatory environment that is going to surround the rollout of these services is very important as well.
But that's transparency from the government side, from the regulators side, but it's also beholden to telephone operators to be transparent as well about the way they charge people, etc., because there have been many incidences in Europe of people being charged for services they didn't know they were receiving, or going beyond their limit. They're being hidden charges, large terms and conditions that are inscrutable and very difficult for most people to understand. This is something that GSMA really does have to deal with, doesn't it? Because otherwise people will lose faith in the mobile industry.
Well, we have to. I mean, as a principle. Not that we will go into pricing, because we are not, for competition reasons, we will never go into pricing as an organization. But of course, as principle, we want to work with the operators to ensure that, there is as much transparency guaranteed to the customers as they can. Now, on data, what you mentioned, in the early days of data, yes, there have been some bill shocks, as there has been, with roaming, but I think operators are, understand that if they fail at delivering these services from the beginning because of high prices or because, really bad media coverage, that they are overcharging consumers, these services are not going to take up and they are not going to be successful. So I think, it needs to be understood that it is in the operators' interest as well that they offer the best guarantees to their consumers so that these services can develop in the most transparent manner and in the most convenient manner for their consumers.